Greetings everyone, how you doing? Here is the first virtual lab. And specifically for the virtual lab, the body part we're going to be talking about is, or are, we have two of them, arms. And with the arms, we subdivided them in our previous lecture. We talked about biceps, triceps, and forearms, and really we'll stick with those three main groups. You can subdivide further down into heads of the bicep, heads of the tricep, muscles that are across the forearm that allow the muscles, allow the hands to articulate. But for right now, we're just going to stick with bicep, triceps, and forearms. I did provide a little food for thought for you guys here, and I'm doing this on like a quick, maybe 5 or 6 slide presentation. I'm going to jump out to YouTube just to kind of go over some exercises, and you'll see some of these in Blackboard. So when you look at basic movements for the arm, and you start to go through this as a movement practitioner, start to evaluate. Are the exercises we're talking about single joint or multi-joint? Further, with each exercise, what's a primary or secondary muscle group being used for the different exercises? For biceps, it's pretty straightforward, right? When you look at a bicep curl, well, the biceps are doing the work. But realize as you curl that bar up, you're curling the bar up and away from your own center of gravity. So as a result, muscles on the back side of your body have to fire to help stabilize the torso. So what's kind of quirky about this, and I'm asking you to really start to kind of evaluate movement, is this. You're going to have primary muscles that work, but secondary muscles that just come to the party naturally as a byproduct of making the movement happen, whether it's a bicep curl, tricep push down, or a lat pull down, or a chest press. No matter what, you're going to have primary and secondary muscle groups being used. As you evaluate exercise, take note. With these videos provided, some will be on machines, some will be with free weights, some will be with dumbbells versus barbells and free weights. Others might be just body weight exercises. What are the ways a person can change the resistance to change how the resistance feels? Further, we're going to get into this a little bit later on, but passive versus active contractions. As you're contracting the muscle, you know it's a concentric contraction. As you elongate, it's eccentric, right? E, right? Got it? Concentric, contract, eccentric, elongate. I think you got that. Really easy to see in a bicep curl. Harder to see in multi-joint exercises. But as you look at the exercise examples that we're going to go through, what are some of the main coaching and cueing points that you need to keep an eye on when you're working with your clients? And so I put this video in, and we're going to go over this here in a second. And this thing will actually autoplay through a whole series of exercises if you tap on this and click the video. But okay, so it's a bicep curl. What joint is being moved? The elbow. How is the resistance being offered? Being offered by a barbell. And quite frankly, that barbell is being pulled straight down to the floor. So really gravity is offering the resistance, and it's a direct effect on that barbell. And that's where the resistance is really coming from. In a weight stack exercise, it's different. We'll see that here in a second. The weights are actually being pulled down to the floor, but the weight is being redirected over pulleys and cams and cables to you, the end user, who's holding a handle. So as you do this exercise on a bicep curl, the barbell is tighter to my center of gravity down here, comes further away once I'm at 90 degrees of elbow flexion, and then it gets closer to my COG as I perform the arc. So when you look at this, you start to think of this in terms of curl. Look at them biceps, man. Holy cow, swole. You start to look at this in terms of how in the world the resistance feels to the muscles as a person goes through, and they go from this position to, let's go there, where they're about 90 degrees of elbow flexion. The bar is furthest away from the body, furthest away from, this is me by the way, my center of gravity. And so muscles on the backside of my body have to stabilize to help me balance. And you see this on a bicep curls many times when guys end up doing more of a back workout when they do bicep because they start sweating. You can even see a little bit of a penduluming back and forth in my shoulders as I'm curling as a counter movement for the weight. A byproduct, an unintended consequence to doing a bicep curl. There's a weight transfer as the weight is distributed from the front of my feet to the back of my feet, more accurately the ball of the foot to my ankle as I go through the curl process. Let's see if I can click out of this. Boom. We go to the next one. This is a tricep pushdown. And a tricep pushdown, it's still elbow flexion, right? So what joint is moving? You'll see it's going to be the elbow. the resistance no longer is being offered from the floor. It's actually via this handle on a cable that's redirected over a pulley. And you can see the cable here goes down, another one comes up and it hits the weight stack. So the weight stack is what's being pulled down to the floor. The weight is just being redirected over a series of pulleys to me, the end user, doing a tricep pushdown. Still a single joint movement, but the difference is we've changed the resistance, more specifically where the resistance is being offered, and we've changed what type of resistance it is. And so as a result, it switches from a bicep curl to a tricep pushdown, even though it's still elbow flexion, elbow extension. Let's see if we can get this guy to do some work here. Extension, flexion, extension, flexion. And it's the same idea, right? While doing this exercise, the hands are further away from the center of gravity. The resistance wants to pull me upward and slightly forward. And as I'm pushing down, if I can do this here, and as I'm pushing down, it's closer to my COG. The angle is still the same. The line of resistance is still the same, but the actual angle of pull and the angle that I'm offering force production wise is a little bit different now because my arms are straight. So bear in mind when you do a tricep pushdown, location, location, location. How close you are to the pulley or how far away you are from the pulley will change, however slight, how that resistance feels on the tricep. Unless this guy get some work here. Let him get some work. Yeah, there you go. So on this, be just aware of that, like where the resistance is coming from and how that's going to affect how things feel. And if we compare these two, the tricep pushdown, which had jumped to another video, you dirty dog. Let's see if it does it. Now I'll hit this in the YouTube section, otherwise we're going to be waiting here forever. Then I'll point out tricep pushdown, tricep extension, but it jumped over to the whole library of videos you can see here. Dang it. And bang, bicep curl. I'm going to get out of that. So let's do this. I'm going to pause the video for 1 second. Okay, we are back. So what will happen is when you're doing the lecture there, it will jump you out to a whole laundry list of videos I shot. 13 of them for arms. There's more. I have probably a couple hundred by now. But we were talking about tricep pushdown with the rope. So notice what happens with this. You have elbow extension as I'm doing my exercise. There we go. If we pause this now, I want you to take a look at the position of the upper arm relative to the shoulder and pay attention to where the resistance is coming from. It's here. It's in line with my ankles, knees, and hips and shoulder. It's not perfectly in line, but it's more in the same plane. Now, if we go ahead and do the same piece of equipment, we go cable crossover tricep extension. Notice now I'm in a supine position looking up at the ceiling. Now, as I go through my range of motion and I extend, let me bring this back to a little bit further. This is full extension. Notice where the arm is relative to the shoulder, specifically in the GH joint, the glenohumeral joint. I'm in elbow flexion, 90 degrees. This causes the tricep to fire differently than what you just saw at the tricep pushdown. Resistance wants to pull my arm back down towards the floor. And in a way, depending on where I've positioned the bench, if I do this correctly, I will pre-contract the triceps to help me stabilize the shoulder, and then I do my tricep extension. Go on, big fella, get some. Might have a glitch here. So this looks different because of the shoulder position, and the resistance that is offered feels different because of the shoulder position and the body position. So now here's the deal. Same piece of equipment, slightly different exercise. See if I can get this guy to do some work here. Yeah, so here we are, tricep extension. Then we go right into a tricep push down, right? Notice again where the arm is relative to where the resistance is. That's going to change how the resistance feels. If we work our way through this list, we can scrutinize all these and I'll point out some things. Now we have tricep extension laying on the bench like we were in the other example where the individual is laying there with the cable, but now the resistance is gravity, and gravity wants to pull that bar straight down towards my chest. A cheat that I use with my clients is I actually have them not go straight vertical over the chest. Notice my shoulders are slightly back and my knuckles are right over my nose. What I've done is, it's a little secret there, as a trade secret, I've pre-contracted the triceps because the bar wants to be pulled down to the floor, and I'm using my triceps to help stabilize in the shoulder joint to keep that from happening. So if I can play here. And we do tricep extension up by the hairline. For some people, it's higher than others. Now I'm doing it with dumbbells. So as we go through this list of exercises, notice how the modalities are changing. We're doing the same movement patterns, but now we have one side working independent of the other, where with the bar, both sides are working together to make the movement happen. We keep playing here. We're going to the next video. Boom. Seated tricep extension, very common one in the gym. Now notice the shoulder position. We went from arms down by the side, what's called extension, right, to do the tricep push down. And then we went into flexion when we were laying on our back and doing tricep extension. And now we're in hands overhead, and we've gone from flexion to full extension, or extension to full flexion, excuse me, sorry about that. And now gravity wants to pull that dumbbell down and back. And this is a great exercise because you can really see as I go through this range of motion, you can see how as gravity wants to pull that dumbbell down, the counter movement that I have in my body and the other muscles that gotta come to the party to keep me from swaying my back. It's a ton of core. Got it? See that there? To the shoulder, back down. Bicep curl, pretty straightforward. We did an example with this earlier. But notice the elbow is staying right by the side of the body and you have that counter movement. Now instead of a straight bar, it's what's called an easy bar, that kind of bent bar position. And we're curling. And we'll switch this up. There's your straight bar again. I'm going to let this guy play out here. Counter movement, subtle, elbow stays by the side. Now this is a little bit different because you have dumbbells and one side is working independent of the other. And notice we're going from a neutral position to what's called supinated. Put your palm up as you're sitting here watching the video. If you have your palm up, it's very much like you're holding a bowl of soup in your hand. It's real easy to remember. I'll get you through grad school with these kind of mnemonics. But we're going from neutral to supinated, alternate arm, one arm at a time. So one side's working independent of the other. So this is a great example. Now you can kind of see the body tempo back and forth, right? As I'm doing my curls, how the body has to respond to the dumbbells. Preacher curl, very common in the gym, single arm, really focusing on keeping the upper arm still. It's just curling and that's it. Dumbbell bicep curls, but now notice the difference. This is a hammer curl, so named because you're holding the dumbbells much like you would a hammer. And unlike our previous dumbbell curl, there is no supination position. So what we've done is we've taken the loading, and yes, the biceps are doing some work here, but now we're placing that work on the forearm, right? So notice how we've transitioned to trying to focus a little bit more on the forearms. The other exercises we did, no doubt, because you're holding a handle, are asking the forearms to do some work. They have to come to the party, right? But now we're saying, okay, you guys are doing more work. The forearms are going to be doing more work in this hammer curl. And if we went to a pronated position where you have the palms down and you did a curl, then it's much more forearm work. It's actually brachioradialis. It's a slightly different muscle in the forearm. And we quiet the bicep even more. Let this guy play out here. This should be number 13. Yeah, oh, one more. Close grip tricep push down. So close grip tricep push up. So with close grip push up, here's the thing. You don't have to necessarily have your thumbs side by side, make like that typical diamond shape in there. What you're after on this is hands are narrow. They're not in their normal position out by the side of the shoulders like in a regular push up, but they're actually closer to the body, and you bring the elbows tight to the body so the elbows brush right past the sides. So here's the thing, when you do this exercise versus a regular push-up, it is chest, shoulders, and tries. All three of them have to work together to make this happen, because here's the deal. You look at this exercise, this is the one exercise we've looked at where the elbow and the shoulder are both moving. It's a multi-joint exercise. And so as a result, you got more muscle going on. Chest, shoulders, tries are all working, but when you put the hands in this position, this closer position, the rank order changes, right? So you offload the work to the triceps, shoulders, and then the chest to a lesser degree gets to do some work. I'm gonna let this play out here. Gets to do some work. So you actually quiet the requirements of a chest a little bit here as you do a close grip. Got it? Get it? Good. So to that end, I am exhausted after doing all this work here, all these curls. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'm going to let you guys go ahead and soak this in and maybe watch it another time or two. And be on the lookout for the virtual lab. It's going to be based off of this video and some of the videos I've placed on our Blackboard page. All right, guys, thanks a ton. Bye.